So I said on my post that I wouldn't make a video for this week because I wasn't feeling well. But then I had a moment.
Girl, if you're lazy now, it's going to just control later and suddenly it's another 3-month hiatus.
So I slapped myself and was like, time to cook something up. So here we are. You saw the title of the video, MerMay, which means we're drawing mermaids. Now I'm sure most of you watching my channel are artists and know what MerMay is, but let me explain for those who don't know. MerMay is a month-long art challenge thing where you indeed draw mermaids. There are prompts for each day. This is the perfect month for me because I love drawing mermaids. Now, the sad thing is I haven't gone to draw anything for MerMay in like 3 years because life is busy and everything. So the solution? Turn it into a video topic because it forces me to do it. The prompts were released for MerMay earlier this month. As of editing this, it's April. Yes, I am drawing my stuff a week in advance so it's ready. Art takes time, okay? So I'm drawing the first prompt, which is hello. Honestly, what I'm doing doesn't fit the prompt, but hey, art challenges are meant to be fun and games. So for this, I am drawing Seraphine as a mermaid. I was in a call with my friends and was like, hey, so which character should I draw for it? And one of them was like, Seraphine. They wanted me to unbirdify the bird. So that's exactly what I did. It was kind of fun trying to come up with a merman design for him because in every rendition of him, he strictly has ties to birds, not fish. One of Seraphine's key features is his wings, his ability to fly and whatnot. In his modern design, they're removed, but for this, I could somewhat put them in. Enter flying fish. Sometimes when I make mermaid designs, I base them off of real-life fish. That's what I did for Seraphine's fins. I put the flying fish wings on his back in lieu of his former feathery wings. I also tried to adapt his normal outfit to his merman form somehow, which admittedly is difficult. Seraphine's original design is very covered up, but with merfolk, it's not as heavy on the clothing generally. I have this weird thing where I still try to cover up my male character's chest areas in these merfolk designs. I technically don't have to, but I do it anyways. Seraphine has arguably a conservative design in terms of how much skin is exposed, so I wanted to carry that over here. I came up with this top, but it took some effort. It can't feel too out of place, alright? Another thing I had to address is his mask. He can't pull up in his bird mask. After some searching, I came across these sort of chain masks. I adapted the chains to sort of be like pearls. I feel like it's a bit more fitting. Of course, it doesn't fully cover Seraphine's face like his original mask does, but it's the best I can go off of. I think another option could have been a seaweed mask, but I don't know, those things seem uncomfortable. And also in a merfolk universe, he'd probably still be royalty, so he needed something a bit more classy anyway. So those were some design choices I made. Now, how does this relate to the topic of hello? Well, a long-winded nonsensical explanation. It is the first time I am drawing Seraphine in a design like this, so in a way, this is his debut into the merfolk thing. And a debut is like a hello, therefore, it totally relates. I'm messing with you all, but yeah. This was a pretty strong start to this, but when I tell you it goes downhill from here, yeah. Here is the full piece. I actually really like how this one turned out. In this video, it's definitely my best. But of course, there's a prompt for each day in MerMay, so let's move on to the next one. The next prompt for MerMay is childhood friend. Now, I have no idea how to communicate that in an art piece, but I managed to think of something. It would be too much to draw a fully rendered illustration every day for MerMay, so I wanted to keep this one simple. I asked my friend for permission to draw his character too, and he gave it to me. So our characters here are childhood friends. I thought it was perfect to draw them, but how do I show that they are? I came up with this illustration idea where I show them as adults and them as kids. I had a tough time drawing it though because I don't draw either of these characters often. That and I also spent an embarrassingly long time struggling on composition. My plan with this is to keep it simple and use the clean sketch as line art and do flat colors. So yes, more simple than my usual drawings. Anatomy is extremely difficult for me here, especially hands. Even if I did a hand study, I still struggled. I kept redoing the hands. Also, children are tough for me to draw. Kat gave me tips for drawing children a while back, but still. I mostly draw adult characters. When you draw children, you want them to actually look like children. At least, I do anyways. So I did my best here. While normally as children, my characters all have black hair because they canonically bleach and dye them, I kept the hair colors here so you guys can tell. Nobody is going to read some long-winded backstory in the post, so you gotta communicate as much as you can via pictures. One of the great things about being an artist is you can actually communicate visually. A lot of that show don't tell stuff you can do. But that's if you're competent, and as you could see, I am not a competent artist. Welp, we do our best here. In terms of design, I kept things pretty simple. Again, I wanted this to be an easy drawing. This took the longest because of my difficulties though. Had I decided to go the fully rendered route, this would take like 12 hours instead. And I don't have the time or energy for that. I was sick, and I also have finals as of recording and editing this. I had everything going against me, but it doesn't matter. The things I do for my subscribers. Love y'all, by the way. Anyways, I didn't do any fancy underwater stuff because, you know, keep it simple. I highly don't recommend drawing when you're sick, because sometimes you don't produce the best results. But see, I'm insane and more dedicated to my craft than I am with my actual important stuff, so yeah. Born to be an artist, forced to do practical life stuff. Anyways, this took way too long. I think 5 hours if I am looking at how much recorded footage I have. It was way too long for something so simple. To be fair, I was also multitasking too. Moral of the story, don't multitask unless you're actually good at it. Everything boils down to just don't be me. Here is the final illustration. Again, something simple so I can breathe easily. Anyways, let's move on to our final prompt for this video since by the time this video is posted, we'd be only 3 days into MerMay. The final prompt for this video is handmade. Now, the intention is to probably make something actually handmade. In this case, traditional art for me. Except I don't feel like recording my in real life settings, so we're just going to do digital art instead. So what was my idea? Maybe a mer person made something for someone? I asked my friends again, and Shihyun was the one that has been decided for this. Now, let me explain Shihyun. He's a serial killer who has an obsession with a detective named Mingi. It was after Mingi saved him from an incident. Shihyun is a freak, but honestly, Mingi is probably an even bigger freak. Anyways, I decided to do a simple drawing of Shihyun giving something to Mingi. That's my digital interpretation of handmade. This went by so fast because this is simple. I didn't have to bend over backwards to figure out anything crazy. A bit more effort than my day 2 piece since I decided to shade here, but yeah. Another reason to keep this simple is so I can put a speech bubble and it won't look horribly out of place. I wanted to put a tiny bit of dialogue, so yeah. I made my own font for this so it fits with my own art style. Yes, the font I use in my speech bubbles is something I made myself. When I tell you I suffered on making that font, I mean it. But it was so worth it though because it works amazingly. I highly recommend making your own font. I learned that trick from Lavender Town, actually. Anyways, this isn't a video about font making. This is about mermaids, so let me ramble a bit more. I have made sort of a sea design for Shihyun before, but I drew him as a sea monster. He's kind of cute as one, but he can be a pretty merman for this. I kept the design relatively simple because, you know, we're not trying to do too much. And Shihyun is canonically broke, so would he have nice things? Of course not! His only nice thing he has is the white ribbon thing Mingi gave him. He will hold on to that thing like his life depends on it, so yeah. I imagine in a universe where Shihyun is a merman, maybe there was a messed up experiment going on and Mingi cracked down on that experiment and saved Shihyun. Shihyun obviously became obsessed with Mingi, so he waits out, tries to look for him, etc. Depending on further details, this could very well be a Little Mermaid story. I don't know, just some silly thoughts, but yeah. Anyways, I finished this in like record time because I think it only took me 1.5 hours, which is not bad. Then again, I would be pretty concerned if I took longer than that for something like this, so yeah. I don't have too many other comments, so let me show the final illustration. Here is the final illustration for this video. I think it's a nice note to end things off. Won't be the last mermaid drawing I do because I will try to do more, but yeah. Alright, and that's it for this video. I've been in a bit of a slump again, but what's new? Sickness getting to me and life being a hater, but I'll probably bounce back one of these days. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot to me. Maybe I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye!